Good day, viewers of Pinoy Chess. This is Lansky, and we are here at day 2 of the finals between Magnus Carlsen and Wesley So in this 1.5 million Champions Chess Tour of the Skilling Open. And it's live commentary by Grandmaster David Howell and two other ladies. I think the lady in black is also a master, an international master, I think, maybe a woman international master, which by the first name of Jubanka. And I'm not familiar with the second lady, but she is also commentating for this Champions Chess Tour. Actually, there are two coverages. This is one of them, and the other is uh, commentated by Peter Leko and also a female chess master from India, and sometimes they have a guest there. Uh, Most of the time, it's Vladimir Kramnik also commentating for the games, and I'd like more this commentary because I think this Grandmaster David Howell is a very good commentator. So what happened here is this is the game two of day two. Wesley So lost in the first game, but he made a very good comeback on game number two. And based on the comments of the commentators, they think that Wesley So would have difficulty in converting uh, as black because Wesley So immediately exchanged queens or allowed the exchange of queens. And for them, Magnus is a very good endgame player. But they were proven wrong, and let's see what happened.
I agree. Magnus Carlsen maybe the angriest of them all. Wesley So though losing the first game to Ivanka. He doesn't have time to be angry. He needs to strike back already.
He does need to strike back. You know, he certainly cannot afford to lose because if he goes 2-0 down, then oh my god, he's going to be in such a big trouble. So he definitely has to strike back. It can be a draw. That's okay. But he must not lose. That's super important.
So we are getting ready for the second game of the day in the final between Magnus Carlsen and Wesley So. Magnus Carlsen winning the first game with the black pieces. And now he's playing with the white pieces, David. He won both games with white pieces yesterday. He is still not sitting by the board. Here he is coming. What do you expect from the world champion in this game?
I think he will actually play it slightly safe this game. He wants to consolidate that lead that he's just taken. I mean, as Ivanka mentions, if Magnus Carlsen wins this next one, it's essentially, I mean, it's so close to being over. He'll be very confident. I think he'll try and play with the safe, with a bit of safety first approach. But if he gets a chance, he will pounce. He will not be afraid to rub the salt into the wounds and punish Wesley So. I mean, this is the critical game. If Wesley So can survive, even a draw is fine here for Wesley So. But, yeah, that's easy to say, isn't it? I mean, you're facing the world champion, and you've got black, and you've just lost a game.
Yes, and you just...
So just a side comment here. Can you see this guy commentator here? This is Grandmaster David Howell, and it looks like Clark Kent. Just an observation, though. Okay, let's proceed.
Lost it in a very cheeky way as well, so... absolutely difficult. Wesley So,
they're starting now
on the ropes. So yeah, he's just opened with the Queen's Pawn. I think we'll see a Queen's Gambit.
I think it's quite likely, Ivanka. Wesley So having a think here. He will have been using the break to maybe plan a strategy, plan which opening to use. So slightly surprised he's spending a few seconds. Maybe he doesn't realise the game has indeed started.
Yeah, he looks a little bit confused. We can see something in his glasses.
I think something has happened to... Okay, there it is.
Okay. Yeah. Is it a Queen's Gambit?
Not yet. It could still possibly transpose into the Queen's Gambit. We could see the Queen's Gambit appear. It will all depend on black's move there. And we see that we do have a Queen's Gambit.
Wow.
A declined version, and we see actually a repeat of their first game yesterday, which Magnus Carlsen did win. So very surprising.
Oh, and Queen's already gone?
Queens have already disappeared off the board. Black's bishop has also been traded for one of White's knights. Black's king now in the middle of the board. We saw this exact position yesterday.
Yes.
Magnus Carlsen did win that game. Wesley So he should have been able to make a draw though, so slightly surprising that they've repeated it. Wesley, he will have an improvement over yesterday's game in mind.
Yeah, absolutely, David. I think I'm very surprised that he chose such a game which was so simple for Magnus. You know, this we've seen it time and time again in this tournament that Magnus has been so good in an endgame. So I'm very, very surprised that Wesley has deliberately chosen to take the game into an endgame. He must be just sticking to his tournament strategy, which is perhaps to push with white and hold with black. But, you know, he has lost the first game. He really does need to strike back.
That's right, and especially once the queens have disappeared. We've seen it before, Magnus Carlsen, he's a genius in these queenless positions. The last game, as soon as the queens left the board, Magnus Carlsen took control. We saw it in Magnus Carlsen's quarterfinals against Anish Giri, in the semi-finals against Nepomniachtchi. Magnus Carlsen, there's just no one better once the queens leave the board. And the thing about this position as well, no risk at all for white. Black is the one fighting for the draw. If black is accurate, he will survive. At the moment, black's last move, bringing the rook into the game, attacking the white bishop. Yesterday, in the first game, we saw white retreat his bishop this direction in a very similar position. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Magnus Carlsen just retreat his bishop and decide what to do next. He could also bring the bishop back in another direction. He could bring the bishop back this way. And he has done. He's dropped his bishop back 2 squares. Very similar to yesterday. I think we might see a similar course of the game as well, where it's equal for a long time, very drawish, but Magnus Carlsen, he'll start massaging those small advantages, trying to turn them into something bigger. And Wesley So, he will need to be accurate to draw this one.
So as you can see here, the commentators are really think that it would just be easy for Magnus because the queens are already off the board. And for them, Magnus is one of the best endgame players. However, it would turn out as the game progresses that it is Wesley So that would be squeezing this position to his last drop to achieve a point through an endgame. Okay, let's proceed.
What game from yesterday is this?
This is
The first one, okay. The first one that Magnus won. So I guess Wesley So want to get out of it at some point and have some new ideas. He has to, of course.
Yeah, that's right. We've seen a slightly different course just over the last 2 moves to that game yesterday. So Wesley So will be on his own here. Maybe he won't have studied Magnus's last move. Last time Magnus did decide to put his bishop on a different square. I think Wesley will have a think here. He's gained a bit of time on the clock. He's gained 1 minute. Now he just needs to decide that black bishop is blocked in by the black king. It's blocked in by a pawn. How will Wesley get that black bishop into the game?
Yeah, absolutely. That is the question. I think you summed up really nicely there, David, because Magnus has varied slightly. The bishop has retreated 2 squares. It has changed diagonal, which is kind of a shift for Wesley, and he has to get that black squared bishop out. And he's taken some time, but he has a lot of experience in this opening. He also held a draw relatively easily against Duda in the preliminaries. So definitely an exciting turn.
Yeah, I think Wesley, with this opening, he's just saying, okay, you try your best to beat me. I'm just going to hold this one.
Yeah.
I win the next game.
But I'm really surprised by it. I mean, I have to say, it is exciting to see. I mean, I do really like to see the players repeating their opening preparation, primarily because I really enjoy the psychology behind this all. But at the same time, I do feel Wesley needs to be a bit more pragmatic, keep the pieces on the board, and just try a bit for more. But yeah, we do have a tweet from Zen Shark who says, excellent commentary, and other than the insightful content, the great personalities of the 3 of you is really what holds it together. Aww. I feel my gains jumped a couple of 100 points just watching this tournament. But thank you so much, Zen Shark. We also have a question while we're waiting for Wesley to come up with a move. And this one's a bit more of a chess question. It says, I want to have e4, which is opening the game with a king's pawn as an opening repertoire. Can you suggest any book for me? Or else also I need a suggestion on how to manage the vast amount of lines in the openings. And
I guess that question is not for me.
No, that's for us, and that's from Abdul Majid. And I would actually say, I would direct Abdul to the site Chessable.com, because that is like the perfect website for learning. Not only do you have the books available, but you also have this amazing technology, which is the science of spaced repetition, where it trains you on how to memorize lines. It also pinpoints your strengths and your weaknesses and can then focus on those weak parts of the game that you need to improve. And it's not just openings, it's also the middle game. And
So as you can see, if you are observant of the comments of the commentators, they are promoting Chessable.com, and actually Magnus uh, wi- uh, wins a prize in the tournament and also wins some money in the form of income from Chessable.com, but because I think Magnus is a co-owner or a uh, some sort of a partner at Chessable.com. Yeah, so whether he wins or not this finals, he is already a winner because of the big income that would be generated by this chess tour in promotion for Chessable.com. I think Chessable.com is a big sponsor in these tournaments because uh, they earn a lot from the subscribers that join their site.
the Endgame, so with the central stages and the later stages of the game. So in terms of having e4, moving the king's pawn forward, I would say that there's some great books out there on the Chessable site.
And it is a Cyber Monday, and that
It
means Chessable has some great deal out there today. So that would be a great place to start.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. I think actually on Chessable there is a video series called Keep It Simple 1e4, which is pushing the king's pawn forward. And I think especially for people learning the game, that's just a great way just to start. From there are plenty of other videos that you can watch once you want a bit more insight, a bit more maybe expert advice.
Yeah, you can also watch just by watching the big top players play. I know Magnus Carlsen plays on the www.chess.24.com, and he's always playing Banter Blitz, and he plays this opening move all the time, and you can hear his thoughts. You know, so unique that we actually get to hear the world champion.
And actually, I mean, isn't it interesting that normal people, that you and me and everyone else can actually face Magnus Carlsen and all the players from the Skilling Open in Banter Blitz on Chess24 if they are premium members.
Yeah. It's absolutely just crazy that we can do this.
You don't see that in any other sport, I think. You can actually play with the best in the world. So just a secret tip from us there. Go to Chess24 and become a premium member, and you will be able to play Banter Blitz with these two, among others.
Yeah, it's not just playing against them, it's basically a free lesson. You get to hear exactly what your grandmaster opponents are thinking. I mean, this is something you can only dream of in other sports. It's something we could only have dreamt of 5-10 years ago in chess. I mean, I'm just loving the way the chess world's going, opening up. I mean, these guys are so accessible now, these top players.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And it's Cyber Monday on Chess24 as well, so that means 50% on that premium membership. I would run in there. Chess24 is also the host for the Skilling Open and the Champions Chess Tour, meaning the chessboards that you're seeing. It is they that deliver all the techniques that we use and all the chessboards that the players are playing on. And WESLEY SO did make his move, and now it is Magnus thinking.
That's right, and a very calm move there by WESLEY SO, just advancing a pawn there on the left side of the board. I think it's just taking a few squares under control. Black is just staking out a little bit of territory on that left side. It's also a bit of a waiting move. Black is not yet ready to decide what to do with that bishop. Black's king as well, still in the middle of the board. I think WESLEY, he's just going to wait for Magnus to declare his plans.
He was gone there for a few seconds,
and then he popped up like the duck in the box.
Maybe he needs to wake up a little bit. It's quite early in Minnesota still, so maybe he was doing some jumping.
Maybe he was petting his cat.
Yes, that would be. I was thinking about that when I was asking Anish Durias, what would he say?
So here we shall proceed with the part that the critical part of the endgame here, and as you can see, the conversion, the way WESLEY SO converted this into a win is really extremely what you call this, extremely instructional, especially for players that are not that are very far from their caliber. So players like me and players like below 2200 should learn a lot from this game between Wesley So and Magnus Carlsen, and that he is able to convert this even when the time control is like this. It's just rapid. You have to think fast. So maybe let's proceed to that part of the game. Okay. No, this is another game already. Okay, let's
So I'm
this part.
dying to see what Wesley
I
is going
know.
to play. Is he just going to simply just go, I don't know what I'm doing either?
I am so curious what is going through Wesley So's mind right now, and I guess Magnus Carlsen is thinking the exact same because he's not able to make his long-term plan now, I guess, until he knows what Wesley So will do.
Okay, so as you can see here, Wesley is slightly ahead in time. He's more than 5 minutes, while Magnus is already nearing the 4-minute mark.
That's right, Magnus, he will just react to Wesley's move. Magnus's last move, very slow. It's up to Wesley now to dictate the pace of the game. I think, as Jovanka mentioned, if we see that pawn push that we just highlighted on the board, if Black pushes that pawn...
And he has made his move.
Okay, so he's made a different move. We didn't expect it. He has moved his rook to the center. So this is kind of using David's philosophy of using all the pieces, talking to the pieces and asking them, are you happy?
Yeah,
I love that game. Actually, I take that game and I make it like extreme.
Are you happy? Are you happy? How are you feeling?
This Black rook is definitely happy now, at least. And actually, that would have been my move, but I would have played it within 5-10 seconds. I just think there's nothing immediate going on, so why not improve a piece? Wesley has done it, but it did cost him 3 minutes on the clock. I'm slightly worried that he might lose momentum now. This chance to push back the white knight has, well, it might still be there later, but it will lose in force. I think Magnus Carlsen, though, that clock ticking under 3 minutes.
Yeah, but if this move by Wesley So surprised you, it certainly probably also surprised Magnus. So, okay, well,
and he has retreated his bishop. And we do have a question from Rahil Chawla. He says,
oh, but look at the bar with that move.
oh,
That's right. I don't understand that move at all, Kaya. White, just 3 moves ago, he pushed that bishop into the centre of the board. Now he's retreating it. Magnus Carlsen, he's feeling the nerves. He's being indecisive, and that's not normal, Magnus Carlsen. He's pushed his bishop back. Now, as we see, Wesley, he's just readjusting himself. He senses the moment, and Stockfish, the computer, suggests pushing the knight to the middle of the board. Wesley has played the best move, putting his knight in the centre. We call that an octo knight. Jovanka's spread the word.
and he has given a check, and of course you can, well, he has blocked the check, and now Magnus has jumped with his knight forward. So Magnus is really trying hard to recover the material. But there's been some series of trades, and I think there's been a clarification of the position with those trades. And now Wesley has attacked the bishop with its pawn, and now Magnus must move the pawn. But Black feels like it's much, much better.
That's right, White must move the bishop because that bishop is now attacked by a pawn. And actually, just on the last turn, we saw a trade for bishop for knight. Wesley found the best move. That was the only move to give Black an advantage. He found it instantly. He didn't even pause. And again, he didn't pause to find the best move. He's kicking White's bishop back. White does not want to trade that bishop for a knight unless he has to. He should retreat that bishop. White needs to keep the 2 bishops together as a pair. They work so well together. Once you separate them, once you remove one of the bishops, White will have no chance. Therefore, Magnus Carlsen, he did what he did. He's repeating his trick from the last game. He's brought his bishop back to its start square. Magnus, he's on the defensive. Wesley So pushing forward now. He's got an extra pawn, and I think that extra pawn might decide this game.
Yes, and that brings us to the Twitter question. Do you think that yesterday we saw 4 white wins? Will we get all Black wins today?
It certainly is looking like it right now.
That's right. I mean, Black's knight in the middle of the board there. He must be in charge in this game, but it's still very far from a win.
Yes.
Okay, so it is still far from a win for Wesley So, but Magnus does only have 3 minutes on the clock. Wesley So is now thinking about this. Is there any way Magnus can now win this game?
He's on the back foot, Kaya. He really is on the back foot because I think Wesley is going to start driving the white rook backwards, I think things are going to start happening where Magnus will have to start. And we kind of use a word here, groveling. And he will be, okay, so we can see Wesley has made a move. He's advanced a knight into white's half of the board, the bottom half. Scary stuff.
Yeah, that's right. And black's knight now is attacking a pawn at the corner there. White's leftmost pawn is undefended. It is attacked. Therefore, I expect to see Magnus Carlsen push that pawn, maybe try to defend it. Black's knights, though, they're starting to dance forward. They have been manoeuvring into better positions with every turn. Magnus, we saw with his last bishop retreat, he's being forced back slowly. Okay, instead of defending that pawn, he's given a check. Will we see a trade of rooks?
Yes, we have.
We've seen a trade of rooks. I'm shocked.
Wow.
I'm very surprised by that one by Magnus Carlsen. We have seen he is an endgame expert, so he doesn't mind trades in general. But basically, with that rook trade, he's saying, I'm not trying to win this game anymore. White can never win this one unless Wesley So just self-destructs.
And just look at that, it's two knights working so well together. Wesley picks up the knight on the right-hand side of the board and puts it in the center. That is just brilliant chess. He is not going to be using or just one of his.
So guys, you can see that Magnus Carlsen is already just about 2 minutes, and Wesley So is now 4 minutes and 45 seconds. So hold tight, it's gonna be an exciting ride.
Pieces, because I was afraid that Wesley might just use one of his knights that's looking active, but this is beautiful stuff.
The bar is definitely saying that this is great for Wesley So, okay? What's happening with the moves here?
Yeah, we've seen another knight for black jump into the middle there. Another great move. Black's knights are, I mean, they're so strong right now. Normally, I'm a bishop man. I prefer my bishops, especially if it's all about open lines, especially if these bishops have long diagonals. But at the moment, black's knight, I mean, that's so beautiful. Look at this knight. It can never be removed. This knight protected, anchored by a pawn as well. Now this knight in the middle of the board, anchored by a pawn. If white ever gives up a bishop for this knight, this pawn will become a beast. Magnus Carlsen, meanwhile, is trying his best to undermine the center. He's trying to fight back. He's trying to create some tension. Black's pawn can't move because it is protecting the knight. Therefore, we do see the Stockfish suggestion, the computer suggestion.
Only one move here.
Only one move here. I think maybe there are others as well, but black can push forward with this pawn attacking a bishop. Black can also maybe just defend this pawn with his king, go on a bit of an adventure with that black king.
Yes.
I think there are some very strong moves for Wesley So. Actually, I would...
Oh, and he has retreated his knight to attack the pawn. You know what? I'm thinking of a pun here, David. It's a nightmare for Magnus.
It's going to be a bad night for him.
Yes.
Yeah, those two.
So in this position, I was thinking if what if Magnus makes the move b4. I'm not sure if it was made. So if b4, and then where would white go? So if b4, then the knight would go away, and then f takes e4. But I don't know if it happened in the game. Let's see. I think that move was not made. So it's still a question for me right now.
Two black knights, such good teamwork. Together now, Jovanka has coined this term, octo knights. Each knight controls 8 squares each. Those two knights between them controlling 16 squares, controlling everything, attacking pawns on the left side, controlling the center.
Oh, I see now. If b4, and then we have here knight b3. So I think it's just okay. So, but I think that move was not made by Magnus.
Center. White's bishops are just so passive. They're next to each other. Those brothers, those bishops are not happy right now.
And Magnus is going almost under 2 minutes on the clock. He doesn't look too uncomfortable here. His face looks very concentrated, but is this pawn move helping him at all?
It doesn't really help white. He's trading off a set of pawns, so now Wesley So he can choose to capture that pawn with his knight to maintain his one pawn advantage, his 1 point advantage. I think Wesley So, though, he has a choice. Black's knight can actually capture 2 pawns right now. Will he capture the pawn in the center, or will he capture a pawn on the left side of the board? Black's knights, they're so versatile. They're so dexterous. They can just jump everywhere. Magnus Carlsen, he needs a bit of a, well, I wouldn't say miracle right now, but this will be a very lucky escape if he can save this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Things are not going his way at all. I just love those knights. I think it was one of my very first trainers who said to me, 2 bishops are amazing, but they're not that great against 2 knights, because the thing is about 2 knights is that they can cover both the white squares and the dark squares. And there you go. And he has taken the pawn in the center. And some exciting stuff happening. Magnus is forced to retreat his bishop all the way to the bottom of the board. That is the starting square. That is not good news.
Yeah, that's the 3rd time that bishop's landed on that square. It brought itself out really early in the game. 3 moves ago, it had to retreat. It jumped forward, now it's had to retreat again. It's unlike that first game that we saw today where Magnus Carlsen retreated the bishop on purpose. Here he's retreating because he has to. I wouldn't be surprised to see Black push forward now, either with his king or with his pawns. Black is a pawn ahead. I would expect to see maybe Black start to advance the pawns, gain a bit more space. Maybe you can start bringing the king to join the knights. Instead he advances the pawn in the centre. I like that move as well. Just controlling more squares. WESLEY So he's got all the time in the world here. He just... okay, on the board he has all the time in the world. He just needs to play a few quick moves, keep upping the pressure, and Magnus Carlsen should crack both on the board and on the clock.
Yeah. So we have a tweet from Goat Tweets. He says, Magnus got Zugzwanged. means that every move he makes leads to a loss. Thank you for the coverage. Most fun I've had all year. So thank you very much, Goat Tweets. And
Zugzwang.
Yes, exactly.
That's a new term to me. Zugzwang.
Yes, so it's basically a German expression, which means, well, you've got your opponent in a situation so that whatever move they make, they end up losing. It would be better not to have the move. So Magnus in trouble there.
Yeah, now both of Magnus's bishops have retreated to their start squares. Both of them are back to square one, those bishops. Every move they're being forced backwards. WESLEY, he's been improving his position, growing his advantage on every turn. I love it. Personally, I agree. I love that German word, Zugzwang, and it will get to the point soon where White just doesn't want to make a move because, I mean, he can barely make a move that improves his position.
Yeah, and the centre pawn is barreling down the board. And
White... look at the king now for Black.
Yeah,
it almost feels like Black's position is just stomping up the board and making life so miserable for Magnus right now.
Absolutely, totally. That is the problem here. And Magnus desperately trying to make some active moves with the light square bishop. He moved it to the right-hand side so that perhaps it could dance and attack Black's pawns. And WESLEY, of course, takes some time out and says, okay, no, you're not going to do that. And just look at those poor bishops. Normally, I'm a big fan of the double bishops. They're so powerful, but WESLEY is making them look harmless.
That's right, and Magnus's last move, he has tied down one of the knights. That black knight now next to the white bishop, it can...
So this game is interesting because, as the commentator said, usually 2 bishops are stronger than knights, but actually the knights here are proving to be the stronger pieces. 2 knights are actually very difficult to deal with because you have to factor in a lot of jumps. 1 knight could really be problematic for you, and the more problematic are 2 knights because you have to be careful with the jumps of 2 knights, not just 1 knight. So this is really an exciting game.
Cannot move because the king would be on an open diagonal behind it. White's bishop would be attacking the black king, but Black's king, at the moment, it might be a bit of a target. It should step forward even more. Black's king entering the white position. If he moves his king forward here from WESLEY So, I think he's going to win this game. He just needs to enter White's camp, enter White's half the board with that black king. That black king is going to decide the game.
Yeah.
WESLEY So is now very soon going under 2 minutes. It's complicated for him as well to find the right moves here to get that comeback, to get that win in the second game.
I think it just takes a bit of courage, just advancing your king into the enemy camp. It's a double-edged sometimes. You don't want to put your king in danger, but the black king would be perfectly safe in the middle there. It's got 2 knights as protection. Knights are a king's best friend. Knights are the best defenders of a king. That's why Black should step his king further forward to help the black pawn in the middle of the board advance. If WESLEY So, if he finds that move,
yeah, he's found it,
Wow.
and he is making that bold decision to come in with the king. Oh my God,
the pressure is on for Magnus Carlsen, the birthday boy, the world champion. He won game 1. We could have a repetition of what happened yesterday.
Yeah, each
Wesley
side,
So winning the second game.
each side taking a slug at each other with the black pieces. That's totally unusual. And we have a tweet from Journey Chess. It says, how often do you see knights dominating bishops in an open position at the Super Grandmaster level? That's rare, I have to say. In those positions where there are no pawns, usually it's the bishops that reign supreme. And here we have the opposite.
That's right. I think the last time I saw two bishops versus two knights, I mean, it must be years and years ago. There's also a famous game in a World Championship match with two bishops versus two knights, but the two bishops were the ones dominating. This time, I mean, those knights, those beautiful black knights defending each other, anchoring each other. Wesley So he's just pushed a pawn there on the left side, keeping his pawns nice and safe, blocking White's light squared bishop, more importantly. Magnus Carlsen, he's stuck. If he trades one of the bishops for a knight, he might as well resign. He might as well give up.
Wow. Oh, now it's the king that takes a step back. Whoa.
White's king is now back on its start square. White's bishop is back on its start square. The other bishop was on its start square 2 moves ago. Magnus Carlsen, he's just trying to defend. He's just trying to hope that he can build a fortress. Black's pieces are all perfect. Maybe he's just hoping that Black can't find that killing blow. Can't find the breakthrough.
But look at this position, and Magnus cannot retreat any longer. He is now on the back row with his king, and the black pieces, they're coming closer and closer and closer.
Yeah, this is...
I feel that this is super uncomfortable for the black pieces.
Yeah, no, this is super uncomfortable for White.
White,
It feels like Space Invaders.
Yeah.
Forward. Oh my goodness me.
And with the clock as well, Wesley So went under the minute there. He did get plus 10 seconds moving his king.
Wow, that's brave, moving the king even further into the enemy camp.
But that's what you wanted, David.
what I
You
wanted.
wanted brave play from the black pieces.
I love it.
We did want that brave play. I think this is perhaps an invitation just to gain some extra time on the clock. Because remember, in previous games, Wesley did panic when the time got low. So there you go, see a check from Magnus Carlsen. Wesley's king has gone back to its square, and probably Magnus, well, I don't know what Magnus will do. Perhaps he'll retreat his bishop to its original square.
Yeah, I mean,
But look at them, actually. They're all lined up in their original squares.
yeah, it's as if White just forgot to start the game and he traded off his knights, his queens, his rooks, those
This is
bishops.
the kind of stuff that happens in nightmares. You know, when you have a chess nightmare, that you've started a position and you've got the following position, and your opponent suddenly started with this, and you're thinking, well, what happened here? I didn't make these moves. But yeah, this is reality for Magnus.
Yeah, I like those nightmare puns. They keep appearing. And Black, meanwhile, he has retreated his king. It looks like he's offering a repetition of moves. We've seen this position before. This is the second time we've reached this position. But Wesley So, this time he'll find a different move. He won't move his king forward like he did last time, because if we get the same position 3 times, the game is declared a draw. He will play for the win. He knows he's winning, and then he pushes his pawn forward even more. I think that's a fantastic move. Now White's king is completely trapped. White's king can never move. White's king is blocked by the pawn, blocked by the knight. White's bishop has to retreat again. Magnus Carlsen inside. He's going to be feeling so down right now. So
But
depressed.
he's not looking. I mean, yesterday we had all the emotions, especially from Magnus Carlsen. He was smiling. He was super angry. He was hitting the screen.
Yeah.
He seems very calm today, even if this is...
Yeah,
very
I can
uncomfortable.
guarantee you he's not feeling calm. I think he's just thinking, oh, well, don't look at this
And
one.
he is under
Move
the
along.
minute.
He is
Right
indeed
there.
under the minute. And Wesley, I think, is
So, ito po, sobrang time pressure na ni Magnus. Magnus is really in extreme pressure here from the clock, because he is just about the 56 seconds, I think. So, let's see what would happen.
he's just having fun with Magnus because he improves his pawn side, his pawns on the right-hand side of the board, on the king side, just a little bit. But I am expecting Wesley to actually start improving his other knight in the center and to find a better square.
Yeah, that's right. And I think the reason Magnus, he's looking so calm right now is because actually this game, it's all been about Wesley So's genius. In the other games, in the games that Wesley So won yesterday, it was because Magnus made mistakes. Magnus kind of beat himself. Today, Wesley's been playing perfect chess. We see a knight maneuver by Wesley So. I like that one. He's bringing his knight. Normally we say we don't want knights on the edge of the board. He's bringing that knight to a better square. He's targeting those pawns on the left side of the board. He's going after Magnus's pawns.
Yeah.
White's bishop is going after Black's pawns. Black's knight is going after White's pawns. I think the knights will dominate.
Yeah, and he also wants to escort that. We mustn't forget that Wesley's having a lot of fun with those knights. But at the end of the day, there is one huge pawn in the center for black. And if that pawn makes a little queen, that's it. It's going to be game over. So I can see something happening there. And you can see him, he's getting ready to just to help that pawn move one step forward. That's why Magnus has retreated the bishop to defend against that check.
Yeah, that's right. White's bishop is now protecting this square. Black was threatening to win immediately if White had got greedy and taken this pawn. Black could give a check with his knight, forcing the king away, and then he would march his pawn forward. Instead, Magnus is clinging on. He's just about defending. Now the other knight is coming in. White has traded off a bishop for a knight. He's trying to escape now, but the end is nigh.
Yes.
Black's king and knight are just going to take those pawns on the left side. These pawns are going to disappear, White's pawns. White's king, meanwhile, is just trapped, struggling to hold back that one pawn in the middle. WESLEY So he just needs to be slightly careful to keep at least one pawn either on the left or in the centre. But as long as he keeps one pawn, that will cost White the bishop.
So that is Magnus's hope now, to try to capture the black pawns.
Yes, that is his hope, you know, because if he can manage to swap off all the pawns and perhaps...
So I think I missed some action there. I was looking at my phone, but I think it's okay. David Howell and Miss Jubanka have provided a very good explanation of what's going on. So, okay, let's proceed.
Leave one black pawn and give up that pawn for a bishop. A knight and king isn't sufficient to give checkmate.
That's right. So WESLEY, he just needs to maintain. He needs to win the white bishop for one of his pawns, and he needs to maintain those two pawns on the right side. As long as those two pawns exist, they will potentially become queens at the end. That was how WESLEY So will win this game. But he's under a minute, and he did shake his head there, WESLEY So. He just needs to be slightly careful. I would keep my pawn. I would keep my pawn in the middle of the board. I would use my king to protect that pawn right now. I think WESLEY So, one of the best moves would just be to bring. Okay, he's found it. He's brought his king back, defending this pawn. His knight will soon win the white pawn. This pawn in the middle, this central pawn, this will win the game. It's so far advanced.
Yes.
All WESLEY So needs to do is keep that pawn, and he will win.
Absolutely. And we have a great tweet from Dominic Kant who says, watching my first chess tournament in the middle of the night, and I am hooked right now. It is officially 1 a.m. here in Myanmar, and I can't stop watching. My heart is pounding from the excitement. Hashtag chess champs. Yeah, it is such exciting stuff, and goodness me, WESLEY looks like he is gonna do it. That knight is just torturing the black.
And if we could have those heart rate monitors on the players right now, I wonder whose heart rate would be the highest. Maybe WESLEY So.
I think so. I think WESLEY would be just brimming with excitement because he knows he is gonna pull the score back. And
there we see as well above the board all of black's.
So as you can see now, the time of WESLEY So is lower than the time of Magnus, but it doesn't matter anymore. This is just a matter of technique for him, and they have already played out the scenarios in their mind. Some sort of position that is similar to this, and it's very easy for them, these super grandmasters. If they are already in their element, nothing can stop them.
Moves win. This is how winning his position is.
Wow.
Every move gives a huge advantage, a plus 8, 9, 10 advantage. That means it's equivalent to being 10 pawns ahead.
Yeah, and the bar has gone up to 10, as you said.
So they're referring to this bar here. This is some sort of engine analysis that shows who's winning in terms of the engine analysis. So shows here that the position of WESLEY So is at least 12 points in his favor.
Said 10 pawns ahead.
yeah, and when you get numbers like that, and every single move is like leads to big numbers like that, that means the game is just very easily winning. And you can see WESLEY has gone for his second pawn. Greedy stuff. He wants that pawn on the left-hand side of the board, and I think Magnus will probably try and give up, actually.
Yeah, as soon as White's leftmost pawn there, as soon as it disappears, there's just no hope. WESLEY will be 2 pawns ahead, 2 dominant pawns ahead. Also, I love what WESLEY's done with the pawns on the right side of the board. WESLEY's pawn there is on a dark square. That means the pawn will never be captured by that white bishop. As long as he keeps that pawn alive, he's guaranteed to win this game. White's bishop will have to give itself up for one of the other pawns, one of the pawns on the left, and then that pawn on the right side that is the one that will make a queen at the end of the game, and Wesley So will win. All he needs to do is push that central pawn forward. It's going to make a queen. White's king is tied down. Now the left pawn is going to slowly start advancing.
So, okay, as you can see here, it seems so winning for Wesley. But how Wesley converted this is really very, very instructive, very nice. So, I'm really proud of this Mr. Wesley So. He's from the Philippines, and I'm also from the Philippines. And this moment really makes Philippines proud, although he had transferred to the United States Chess Federation. Most Filipinos still uh, watches his games avidly, even if we lose some sleep or would sleep already at dawn. If we would be able to watch his game, we shall do so. So that's what's happening to me now. So let's proceed with the game.
Advancing.
Yeah,
It's game over.
it is game over.
All right, we are watching. Wesley So is the one making the next move, and do you think then? Now Magnus Carlsen in the move. Will he?
Okay, so you can see there, Wesley So is letting go of the knight. The knight needs no protection because if the king takes the knight, then the pawn at the e2 square would go onto the queening square, which is e1.
Give up now.
I think any minute. We see even the computer thinks it's a plus 51 advantage. for black.
And that's not even possible to have 51 extra pawns. Okay, Magnus is still making some moves. It's very difficult to give up when you've lost with the white pieces. It's so hard.
Look at this position. Wesley's gonna make the move b3 after this bishop d3, and there's nothing to take for white because if he takes the knight at c3, then we have e1. The pawn would go onto queen, and if the bishop takes the e2 pawn, then knight takes e2, and the pawn at the b file would go onto queen at b1. So there's really nothing to do for Magnus here. He has already lost this game very clearly.
So he actually just keeps on playing just because I don't want to.
Yeah, it's just because otherwise you
I don't
just
want to
have to
realize it.
Okay, Magnus has
Oh, now
resigned
he
here,
definitely realizes it. You see it on his face.
and
And
Wesley
he
So
has
equalizes the match.
given up. Wesley So is the winner
On
of
the
game 2.
second day.
Can you guys believe the drama we're seeing in the Skilling Open final?
Absolutely not. We've not had a single draw in this match.
6 games,
Okay,
6
so
wins.
that's it. They have answered my question a while ago. There's not a single draw in this match up to this point. So it means that in the first day were all decisive games. So that means that's a 2-2 score for them in the first day.
6 wins, and it seems they're playing copycat. You know, Magnus wins with white, Wesley wins with white, Magnus now won with black. Wesley's like, yeah, fine, I'm gonna have a shot too with black pieces. It's absolutely amazing.
Wow,
I've never seen a tour.
And David, now I guess it's upper hand Wesley So.
It must be, surely. I mean, we might have to rename him the comeback kid because 3 times he's been behind in this match, 3 times he's won immediately, and won in style. I mean, this was fantastic style. We called it early on. We said white is normally never in risk in these types of positions. Somehow Wesley, through some genius play, I mean, using his knights, he was like a magician with those knights. I mean, I'm a bit speechless. Just the way he maneuvered there, the way he completely outplayed the world champion.
Wow. And they do now have 15 minutes before they start the 3rd game. We know that we now definitely will have 4 games of chess today.
Thank you guys for watching this commentary video of mine. And I'll try to provide more commentaries for the other games of this match between Magnus Carlsen and Wesley So. So thank you for watching this video, and I hope you subscribe to this channel and so that you would be notified if I would be uploading more videos in the future. So thank you for watching, and bye for now.